All right, so welcome back into the Metaverse. Today we'll dive into Sandbox, kind of their land roadmap, and take a deeper look into the token, the NFT, and how Sandbox may evolve into one of the most powerful Metaverse projects out there to date. My name is Paul Barron. Welcome back to Metaverse Insider. Let's get into a couple of things. One, of course, is covering the blog post that Sandbox put up that really details a ton of what they're doing over the next few months. For the most part, we'll try to get to as much of this as we can. But there is a lot of items here that are on the list. If you are looking at maybe getting to land ownership or you're already a landowner, a lot happening here. So kicking off the second part of the year, they're going to recap this, kind of the roadmap for 2022 landowners. They have a bunch of airdrops planned for this year. And of course, there's a ton of different features and tool sets in which are going to be rolled out within the land itself or within the land program. So if you look as a landowner right now, you've already had the opportunity to claim the 2.5 million in sand. This was an airdrop to landowners back in January. So that's already done. You've got 5 million sand in an airdrop coming to landowners in May, not yet here as of recording this. And then claimed to celebrate the Metaverse's 1,000th day based on land holding time. This is back from and planned for a September 22 date. Staking, also lots happening. The multiplier on Sand and ETH staking on Uniswap, that's already been done. But there's a lot other items coming in. Multiplier on Sand and Matic, which is coming over on QuickSwap. This will come later in May, it looks like. And then also Layer 2, also in May. And then landowner exclusives, both on Catalyst and Gem. This is the layer in which it gives you the capability of kind of building your overall Sandbox avatar. So that's a different item as well. And this is all on the staking side. And then exclusive 10 million sand farming layer 2 that will jump out in July. So big stuff here. Buying more than 100,000 land acquired by 20,000 landowners. So I was kind of surprised at this number, is that much land was done, because that's, right now that would be an average of 5 pieces, but you would imagine that some of these people are owning maybe upwards of 10 parcels. So interesting. Now this is kind of interesting. I want to zoom in on this because they've got some new partnerships here, May and June. Don't know what the eyeballs mean. You've got a skateboard here that could be a Tony Hawk thing, an Xbox controller. Could that be Microsoft, a partnership there with Xbox? 2 chains. Is it either that's multi-chain? I'm guessing that's got to be multi-chain. We've kind of bounced this around in the studio here. Could that be, wrapper 2 chains? But I feel like it's got to be multi-chain. Multi-chain, then you've got, a little bit of a Siggy there, or maybe that is a Snoop Dogg component. Not sure about the time, and then maybe some sort of kind of film. So they're very cryptic, and as many of the projects out there within the Metaverse and the gaming community, very cryptic on how they kind of try to give indices out there as to what's coming, and for the community to essentially try to figure it all out. So new sales system with a raffle. This one is a much needed update, mainly to deal with the bots, which is a big problem, as we all know. But I'm still not totally sold on this model just yet. I think there will be eventually a model that is going to prove out to be the way to roll out with NFT land sales. So we'll see how that happens. This is going to be a distributed process also that will be in September of 2022. Also upcoming is a land sale for Ubisoft, Paris Hilton, Warner Music Group, Gucci, all in Q2 and Q3. So they've been at work here. Sandbox in general, I think, has done a lot in the way of road mapping out how land needs to be a part of this. The question really is going to be how much effect this is going to have on the token. If you're a token investor, if you are an NFT investor and you're thinking more long-term, there's a lot of things that are in the pie here that really kind of make this, I would say right now, one of the definitely in the top 3 NFTs to hold in a bear market or try to acquire, because this may be an opportunity to get in at a very low cost, especially with Sandbox trading what could be under $1 at some point. Right now, I think around 130, and I'll look at the charts here in a minute. But Play coming in, Season 1, exclusive rewards been done last year. Season 2, we know all about that with the raffle tickets. This was one we even one of our own team within the Crypto Pit ended up winning some bucks on that, some sand. And Season 3, extra raffle tickets increased rewards, and then the special raffle, which I still am curious as to how that's going to work. 35 plus certified builder community. I think this needs to be a lot bigger, but I understand, what they're trying to do in terms of, scaling it with the right kind of creators and all of that. So I think that's going to be a factor, though, for it to scale really into the next level. Creating estates with your land, that's coming in Q3. You've got publishing experiences on your land. That'll be interesting because I think this will be where a lot of creativity and innovation may come into Sandbox. But they do need to open it up to a lot more of the creator aspects, not people that are just going out and buying land for the value of it and hoping to, sell it and put it back onto the marketplace. So I hope that because they are rewarding people who are contributing to the community. And I think that is a big factor of really kind of moving on this. Migrating access to all features on Polygon. This is layer 2. This I think will be big in June, and then also the 1 million SAN distributed cashback on migrated lands. This also coming in June. Lots going on Organize. They've got some some local meetups, which will be interesting. I think they should have done or should be doing that more so now. They've got the NFT NYC coming in June. That'll be somewhat interesting, but I do think more meetups is going to be something that really needs to tie into this. And then you get into a couple of things that are just overall, data from being a landowner. And I wanted to kind of highlight a couple of things here. 2.5 million registered wallets in the Sandbox, 500,000 active users, 350,000 seasoned players, pretty good number. 20,500 landowners, I still think this is a little bit low, but 150,000 sand holders, which is, of course, the token. And I think that, too, is very low right now, just again, because I think Sandbox is one of those projects, even though it has been kind of the icon of the metaverse so far, it is still one of those projects that is highly under or not as well known in the crypto annals of the industry. When you talk to someone who understands or is starting to look into crypto for the first time, Sandbox is not typically the project. That's another area that I think the metaverse and especially some of these key projects need to really accelerate on, and just being able to get awareness out there, because this is a big problem. Supporting creators is going to be a big deal. Hosted 5 game jams in 2021. That was good. I think they really need to blow up on that for this year. And then they kind of go into this chart and the tier for the land levels, and of course minimum scores to get access to that, and then what the valuation of those would be in terms of rewarding. Stake, they plan to make staking a steady and durable mechanism. I think this is a good strategy for anyone, really, is to create a staking strategy that has some scalability and does have a long-term ability to model itself as the market is created around a particular project. So I think that's a good one. Staking multipliers are also going to be back, as I mentioned earlier, on layer 2 for Sand and Sandmatic as soon as the deployment is complete, and then they'll bring back the table from Sand and ETH, so we'll see that come back. Gem and Catalyst, as I mentioned earlier, opening up in June. Again, that's going to be the Kickstarter for their creator economy. I hope to get our own Metapol in there, and that would be done through Gem and Catalyst, obviously with that. So distribution. You've got basically legendary, epic, rare, and common. This is your layer of sand, and then power differently in terms of the quarterly distribution via gems. Again, these are more of the feature sets within your avatar, within your ecosystem from a standpoint of a creator. So lots happening here. Definitely, it's one to watch. A couple other things I kind of talked about here that I thought were interesting. We kind of covered most of this. The custom estate, this was kind of, we talked a little bit about that, but custom estate, I think this is going to be interesting when people do start to carve out their own space, because that, as I said earlier, will be kind of the area where we'll start to see some use case for both Metaverse and within the Sandbox, maybe in some very unique ways. And that, of course, I think only energizes the creator economy and also energizes the creativity and innovation that we expect to see in the metaverse. And this is one of those projects that could lead the way for a lot of different metaverses out there. So the real question is going to be, does this really affect, will land sales really affect the Sand's recovery? And Sand has had a really tough time, as like most tokens, especially in the altcoin range, but more so in the metaverse. Sandbox has not been able to hold token pricing. Sentiment has been a dismal return. And again, I think we're coring down to really only the enthusiasts. We're not getting the the metaverse curious right now in this bear market. And I think that is something that, again, has to, again, really kind of open up to the overall market to help grow. And I think the only way around that and for this to happen is for metaverse aware projects, more content out there, a lot more education, which is the number one area that I think is lacking. So when, Sands recovery, you can kind of see out of the sandbox, they're talking a little bit here. This was Dune Analytics showing, kind of the fall off that we saw from last fall. Lack of volume is also a consequence of low sales. This is, again, going back to my point, is that we're dealing with I think a drilled down group of investors that have already been drinking the Kool-Aid for quite some time, and now we're kind of stuck in that particular, feedback loop that is what it is. And we won't see, until we see more education and more innovation in the metaverse and within these games, I don't think we're going to get those crypto curious people that are going to be jumping in like they were in October and November of last year, because that was really when the basis of a lot of these metaverse projects really launched. So definitely moving heavily there. Virtual Land just sold for 2 ETH in the sandbox. Obviously, valuations are down even with ETH now trading under 2,000. In and out of under 2,000, I think we'll continue to see more value there. This may be, as I said, this may be the time. If you are looking long-term for metaverse and you believe in metaverse as a whole, this could be one of the projects that would be a long-term play of grabbing it while it's on the floor and getting in on what could be a very unique opportunity. Because once we start to see the cycles of cryptocurrency and the market start to recover, obviously a lot of this will have some element of pressures from the economic, mainly from exploration of new investors and new players. But for the most part, I think players, and to a certain extent some of the landowners, they're going to continue to grow. The problem is the marketplace for that is really going to be the question mark. Decentraland, and this is a story, Decentraland Sandbox tokens may dip below $1 again. If it does, this would be another opportunity for me, because I've been buying Sandbox. And again, these are market movers. The key with market movers are real simple. We're going to give you a bunch of data, some insights, our own understanding of what's happening, a little bit of information that really leans into our own strategies, but it's not investment advice. What I hope you guys are doing, if you are experiencing or researching the metaverse for the very first time, maybe this is the first time you've ever heard of Sandbox, you need to do your homework. And these are projects, and like I've said many times, metaverse is one of the most highly volatile. You think Bitcoin and Ethereum and traditional alts, blue chips, are volatile? In this kind of market, metaverse is maybe 5x of that, maybe 10x in certain areas. So you need to understand, but at the same time, it's a certain percentage of my portfolio, and it is an opportunity to really see gains that you would not normally see in traditional cryptocurrency, and definitely not in traditional markets. So you have to take those things into consideration. With Sandbox, it was trading at 4 or 5 times the rate it is right now. But if we see this go under $1 again, it could be one of those things that would be an opportunity. And you can kind of see the indices right here on NFT indexes. This is not just Sandbox. This is a downward trend that we've seen really for the last few months. Here's May, especially on the big fall off in May. Even though really early in the year, March, April, late April, NFTs were still somewhat holding. This is the NFT 500. And again, this is Nansen. There's the blue chip 10, which is, the apes of the world and so on. But even so, you get into what we're seeing right here. It's just a really heavy fall off on the marketplace. So if you are an NFT believer, if you are a Sandbox enthusiast, or maybe you are a futurist and understanding that the scale in which gaming and NFT and tokenization will implement itself within a lot of different industries, including gaming and a lot of different types of entertainment and fashion, etc. This may be a very golden moment right now. We may not see these kinds of things. Now, could it drop even further? Sure, if we see a $20,000 Bitcoin, and we've talked about that on the show, make sure and check that video out. It's not saying that 20K will happen, but it's looking at the market pressures and the FUD that's causing this kind of pressure within the ecosystem of cryptocurrency. And because of that, these kind of things do play into it. So lots happening out there. I want to get into a couple other items. I want to just jump in quickly to Sandbox, the chart, just to show you guys a little bit of the fall off here of where we were. I'll go to the measuring. So even if you were buying end of March, right here, we'll go here to that, down to where you're trading right now, we're talking about a 65% adjustment. That's massive compared to what we've seen with Bitcoin and other somewhat more stable projects within cryptocurrency. So I hope that you didn't buy into Sandbox in March and that was the only time you bought into it, because obviously we've seen a massive correction here. But if you did, if you do zoom out and you really kind of take a look at the overall market of where Sandbox once was right here, and really kind of just, we kind of exit that, go to the all-time high, we'll take a look at the pounding that it did take, along with many other stocks, or projects. But if you look at where it's trading right now, right there, we're hovering in 86, 87%. Now that's the question, because in most bear markets, a correction is, and many people have looked to this, is an 80% correction. It's what we've seen over the cycles. But Metaverse and NFTs are quite a bit different, mainly because this is the first real cycle that we've seen with Metaverse and NFTs. So an 87% correction is massive. Is this the time in which it would be an opportunity to get into these? That's the question you have to ask yourself. And the good thing is that if you are not in any of these projects and have not been in any of those, you just went through an 87% buffer on being able to get into something. Now, could it go down to 10 cents? Sure, it could. Sandbox could see a sub $1 easily with the pressures of the market. However, at the same time, if we start to see Bitcoin stabilize, Metaverse is typically one of the first places that we start to see corollary ingestion into the market, because that's usually where people start to move additional assets and so on. And if you look at the historical here on Sandbox, the fall off, I mean, we're only back in the 4-week period right here, but even then, 72, pretty much flat over the past month, and then this big fall off right here, which is the concern I have right now of Metaverse in general continuing to decline as a whole. And if you look at the overall, let me kind of just jump up here on the overall real quick, and we'll go to overall dashboard there. And the overall is another one, because Metaverse is the one that I'm watching, and that is exactly what we've seen right there over the past really 3 to 4 months. But more importantly, this is just the past 8 weeks, 6 weeks. So you've got a big fall off here in Metaverse right now as we continue to see this. And again, like all markets, these are the times in which typically, if you're going to win, you're going to win in the time when the markets are red, and when we start to see these adjustments, whether you're dollar cost averaging or doing different kind of investment strategies, or you're trying to gain or grab up NFTs, and you do believe in the tokenization or utility is a big key, and I think Sandbox has done a good job with that. All right, so that's kind of a wrap for today, but remember, if you guys are listening in over on the podcast here on Metaverse Insider, we have another podcast called Tech Path Crypto. It really drills down into Bitcoin, a lot of the major altcoins, and also the global economic position of finance in general. Check that podcast out. I think you guys will like it. And of course, if you are not checking out our YouTube channel, this is the number one place you got to be. This is the place where you're going to get all this, charts and more, including our interviews. But of course, if you want to catch me out on Twitter, it's @Paul Barron. We'll catch you next time right here on Metaverse Insider.